Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam Stuti series, continuing with Srila Shukadev Goswami's glorification of Mahavishnu. We are on shloka number 22 of chapter 4, canto 2. Prachodita yena pura saraswati
प्रचोदिता येन पुरा सरस्वती
vitanvata jasya satim smritim hridi
वितन्वता जस्य सतीं स्मृतिं हृदि
swalakshana pradurabhut kilasyatah
स्वलक्षणा प्रादुरभूत् किलास्यतः
समे ऋषीणां वृषभः प्रसीदताम्.
समे ऋषीणां ऋषभः प्रसीदताम्.
Word for word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prachodita,
प्रचोदिता
inspired.
inspired
Yena,
येन
by whom?
by whom
Pura,
पुरा
in the beginning of creation.
in the beginning of creation
Saraswati,
Saraswati,
the goddess of learning.
the goddess of learning.
Vitanvata,
Vitanvata,
amplified.
amplified.
Ajasya,
Ajasya,
of Brahma, the first created living being.
of Brahma, the first created living being.
Satim Smritim,
Satim Smritim,
potent memory.
potent memory.
Hridi,
Hridi,
in the heart.
in the heart.
Swa,
Swa,
in his own.
in his own.
Lakshana,
Lakshana,
aiming at.
aiming at.
Pradurabhut,
Pradurabhut,
was generated.
was generated.
Killer,
Killer,
as if. Asyataha,
Asyataha,
from the mouth.
from the mouth.
Saha,
Saha,
he,
he,
may,
unto me.
Rishinam,
Rishinam,
of the teachers.
of the teachers.
Rishabhaha,
Rishabhaha,
the chief.
the chief.
Prasidatam,
Prasidatam,
be pleased.
to be pleased.
Translation. May the Lord,
who
in the beginning of the creation,
in the beginning of the creation
amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma
amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma
from within his heart
and
inspired him with full knowledge of creation
inspired him with full knowledge of creation
and of his own self,
and of his own self,
and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma,
and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma,
be pleased with me.
be pleased with me.
So if we read the purport, Prabhupada writes, as we have already discussed here and before, the Lord as the super soul of all living beings from Brahma to the insignificant ant endows all with the required knowledge potent in every living being. A living being is sufficiently potent to possess knowledge from the Lord in the proportion of 50/64 or 78% of the full knowledge, which means we have 50 out of the 64 qualities that the Lord has. Of course, we don't have it in full and we may not have all 50 also. So that may vary. So at a minimum or at a maximum, you could say, we may possess 78% of what the Lord possesses. Since the living being is constitutionally part and parcel of the Lord, he is unable to assimilate all the knowledge that the Lord possesses himself. In the conditioned state, the living being is subject to forgetting everything after a change of body known as death. This potent knowledge is again inspired by the Lord from within the heart of every living being, and it is known as the awakening of knowledge, for it is comparable to awakening from sleep or unconsciousness. In other words, Prabhupada is explaining that we as spirit souls are eternally Satchidananda. It's just that we've forgotten that we've Satchidananda, Therefore, when we come into contact with devotees and our Krishna consciousness gets reawakened, it's as if we are awakening from a deep sleep and coming back into contact with the Supreme Lord. This awakening of knowledge is under the full control of the Lord. And therefore, we find in the practical world different grades of knowledge in different persons. This awakening of knowledge is neither an automatic nor a material interaction. The supply source is the Lord Himself, Dhyam Patihi. For even Brahma is also subject to this regulation of the Supreme Creator. In the beginning of creation, Brahma is born first without any father and mother, because before Brahma there were no other living beings. Brahma is born from the lotus which grows from the abdomen of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and therefore he is known as Aja. This Brahma or Aja is also a living being, part and parcel of the Lord. But being the most pious devotee of the Lord, Brahma is inspired by the Lord to create, subsequent to the main creation by the Lord, through the agency of material nature. So both the knowledge and the potency to do Visarga is given to Lord Brahma by Vishnu himself. So Brahma by himself did not know what he was supposed to do after he was created atop the lotus flower that grew from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. He was confused. He didn't know what he was supposed to do. So who actually reveals to him what he is supposed to do? It is the Lord. But the Lord only does that after he hints to him that he has to do tapa or some amount of austerity. And only when Brahma is inspired by the Lord to do this tapaha, then the Lord reveals to him what he is supposed to do, what his job responsibilities are. Therefore, neither the material nature nor Brahma is independent of the Lord. To create, you need the Lord's potency, you need the Lord to empower you. So that empowerment Brahma got from the Lord himself. The material scientist can merely observe the reactions of the material nature without understanding the direction behind such activities, as a child can see the action of electricity without any knowledge of the powerhouse engineer. So we witness a lot of the Lord's potency in this world. The lightning, the thunder, the rain, how the oceans don't breach their borders, how the river flows into the ocean. We witness so many different natural activities happening, but we really do not understand how they are happening. But if you look closer and you delve deeper, you can understand that there must be some personality behind all of this. Therefore, Prabhupada is comparing it to somebody observing the output of electricity and how electricity actually lightens up a bulb, runs the fan, runs the refrigerator, runs so many utilities. But nobody understands how the powerhouse actually works. But we know that electricity is being generated by the powerhouse. But we don't need to know how the powerhouse operates. But we do know that there is a powerhouse, that there is a supply source. So we understand that the supply source of everything and anything in this cosmos is actually Krishna himself. This imperfect knowledge of the material scientist is due to a poor fund of knowledge. The Vedic knowledge was therefore first impregnated within Brahma. And it appears that Brahma distributed the Vedic knowledge. So the Vedas themselves were revealed to Brahma. It's not that Brahma created the Vedas. The Vedas originate from the Lord, as we can understand from the Bhagavad Gita, 15 chapter 15 shloka. Brahma is undoubtedly the speaker of the Vedic knowledge, but actually he was inspired by the Lord to receive such transcendental knowledge as it directly descends from the Lord. The Vedas are therefore called apaurushaya, meaning it is not imparted by any created being. So the Vedas do not come from human beings, it comes from the Lord himself. Before the creation, the Lord was there, Narayanah Paro Vyaktat, and therefore the words spoken by the Lord are vibrations of transcendental sound. So, the Bhagavatam in the second canto, Prabhupada explains, and Shukadev Goswami explains, that the Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Supreme Lord. And the Bhagavatam is the Lord Himself as transcendental sound. So the Bhagavad Gita is considered the incarnation, the sound incarnation of the Lord, whereas the Bhagavatam is non-different than the Lord. It's His transcendental sound. There is a gulf of difference between the two qualities of sound, namely Prakrita and Aprakrita. The physicist can deal only with the Prakrita sound, or sound vibrated in the material sky, and therefore we must know that the Vedic sounds recorded in symbolic expressions cannot be understood by anyone within the universe unless and until one is inspired by the vibration of supernatural Aprakrita sound, which descends in the chain of disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, from Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, and so on. That means this Aprakrita, which is transcendental sound vibration, comes in disciplic succession and it originates in the Lord Himself. No mundane scholar can translate or reveal the true import of the Vedic mantras, hymns. They cannot be understood unless one is inspired or initiated by the authorized spiritual master. The original spiritual master is the Lord Himself, and the succession comes down through the sources of parampara, as clearly stated in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada is referencing here the tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upatekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So unless one receives the transcendental knowledge from the authorized parampara, one should be considered useless. Nishphala mataha. Even though one may be greatly qualified in the mundane advancements of arts or science. In traditional culture, we respect somebody who has achieved a lot in life, whether it is through education or through finance or through some way in which they have achieved some notoriety or fame. We certainly admire that. But Prabhupada is saying all of this is actually nishphala mataha. This is all useless knowledge. The only knowledge that is useful for us, because we are eternal human beings, we are spirit souls, is knowledge about the transcendental nature of the spirit soul, the transcendental nature of the Lord, and the relationship between them. Shukadeva Goswami is praying to the Lord by dint of being inspired from within by the Lord, so that he could rightly explain the facts and figures of creation as inquired by Maharaj Parikshit. A spiritual master is not a theoretical speculator like the mundane scholar, but is Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. What is the identity of a spiritual master? Somebody who is walking the transcendental path is that they are firmly fixed in Brahman realization. They understand who is Bhagavan. Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Any other person who is in the role of guru, there are so many gurus even for mundane material subject matters, but the real guru is someone who has understood Brahman, who understands who is Bhagavan. So I was listening to His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj's lecture on this particular shloka earlier, and Maharaj talks about the 4 things that are important for us to understand. As per Shastra, it begins with Adav Guru Padashrayaha. First, we must take shelter of Guru when it comes to transcendental knowledge. Second, Shikshayate, meaning we should become, we must be ready to learn from our spiritual master. Then the third is Diksha. We must take initiation from the spiritual master. And the fourth is inquiry. Maharaj was explaining from the Nectar of Devotion that there is two types of sadhana, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti. In Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, we have to learn from the spiritual master how to wake up early in the morning, how to chant a minimum of 16 rounds every day, how to observe Ekadesi fast, how to worship the deities, how to serve Vaishnavas. All of this rules and regulations we learn under the process called Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So a whole set of do's and don'ts are given to you on how to practice Krishna consciousness. And Maharaj was explaining the fundamental positive rule is that we should always remember Krishna. And this is the mother rule. So all of the other positive rules of do's stem from this one rule, that we should always remember Krishna. Smartavyam sadatam Vishnu. We should always be remembering Krishna. Then the don'ts stem from one single rule: never forget Krishna. So this is the mother rule of the don'ts. And all of the do nots stem from this one single rule, which is we must not forget Krishna. So essentially one positive and one prohibition. The positive is that we must always remember Krishna. The negative is that we should never forget Krishna. Therefore, Prabhupada also explains in the Nectar of Devotion as well as the Nectar of Instruction that the first rule that the devotee follows is you must chant your 16 rounds of japa every day. And this is the first instruction we have to follow. Of course, everything else is also there: hearing, reading, doing sankirtan, doing seva, all of that is there. But the fundamental rule begins with chanting your designated rounds. So how do you get to chant your designated rounds? Maharaj was explaining in response to a question asked by one of his disciples, which is, how do you actually get this process of practicing Krishna consciousness? Maharaj explained, as per Shastra, two things are necessary. Our parishrama, which is our endeavor. Everything begins with our endeavor. So we have to make some efforts from our side to learn, to hear, to chant, to follow instructions. And then comes Krishna Kripa, the mercy of the Lord. So both go hand in hand. Without parishrama, you cannot anticipate Krishna's mercy. Very rarely Krishna gives pure bhakti to someone who apparently did not do anything. There are a few examples even in the Nectar of Devotion of how someone becomes a pure devotee just because the Lord benedicted them with that. They did not do anything. But for most of us, the majority of us, our parishrama is necessary. Therefore, our personal sadhana becomes very important. And then we elicit Krishna's mercy through our sadhana. And Krishna's mercy means it's actually Guru's mercy. So when we elicit Guru's mercy, automatically we are also getting the Lord's mercy as well. So here, Shukadev Goswami in this shloka is clearly calling out that even Brahma got his knowledge from Krishna himself. He was inspired to create, and he was inspired to follow Krishna's instructions. One is inspiration and creativity is given to you, but that doesn't mean you necessarily utilize your talent in the right way. So even to utilize that creative potency, he had to have the ability to follow the Lord's instructions. And that also was given to him through empowerment by the Lord himself. So even great personalities are completely dependent on the Lord for their duties and responsibilities.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you'd like to join our classes every day, please check the details in the description section of this video. We look forward to serving you.